Welcome to Love Light, the only podcast dedicated to bright, fine art photography. Hosted by Sarah Jane Ethan, Love Light is here to celebrate all things bright, pretty and pastel. At Love Light, white is the new black and beauty is in the detail. This is your place to relax, a place to belong, a place to be inspired and connect with like-minded colleagues who share your passion for light and beauty. So come and introduce yourself in the Love Light Facebook group and subscribe to the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram for your weekly dose of inspiration and connect with bright, fine art photographers from around the world.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Love Light podcast. Today we've got Michelle Santiago from Neither Michelle Photography. Now, Michelle was a photographer I desperately wanted to get on the show because she's been a member of Love Light for I'm not sure how long now, but a good while. And me and my husband were joking that our Instagram feed was becoming the Michelle show because we absolutely love Michelle's work. And if you're not a part of the Facebook group yet, go over and join, because if you post your pictures in the Facebook group, we often select images to feature on our Instagram. And when it came to Michelle's work, every picture she was posting, we were like, yes, we want that one. Yes, that one too. Yes, that's amazing. Yes, that. And so I just thought we've got to get her on the show and just talk about her journey and how she got to where she is with her photography. She lives in West Texas with her husband and her 6-month-old daughter, who is adorable. She's been photographing for 5 years professionally and had work featured in Magnolia Rouge, The Knot, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, The Fount Collection, and many more. And on top of the usual challenges facing all photographers anywhere, she has the added challenge that her husband is in the US Army, so they have to move every few years. So as a business owner, I can imagine that's quite a challenging situation to be in. So I'm fascinated to hear your story, really. And so talk to us. First of all, thank you so much for being on the show, Michelle. It's
Yes, thank you. That was the best introduction ever. I'm so flattered.
Amazing.
Yes. So yes, him being in the military has been an adventure, most definitely. That kind of actually what kickstarted me getting into photography.
Really?
Yeah, so we met in college, me and my husband. My degree is actually in Parks and Recreation and event management, of all things.
Right.
So I thought I would be a park ranger or an event planner one day. So that's kind of how I got into the wedding part of the industry, the event side. But when we got together, he's like, guess what? I joined the military. I said, okay. So moving around, we went up to New York first, and it's very hard to find jobs as a military spouse, because if you let them know you're a military spouse, they automatically kind of write you off because they're like, oh, you're going to move in a couple years, so we'll find somebody else. So it was actually very hard to find a job in my industry. And so I always loved photography. I wasn't born with a camera in my hand. I wasn't an expert. My photos were actually pretty terrible when I was growing up. And people always say like, oh, I've always loved film photography. And I did. It was just one of those little point and shoot cameras, nothing fancy.
I love it.
But a couple of my friends did it, and I'm like, wow, that just looks like so much fun. And I've always tried to be in, do a lot of creative hobbies and stuff. So I picked it up as a hobby, and then we moved to Texas, and I said, you know what, I think I can do this. I really want to try this. So I was actually working on a furniture store selling furniture. And on my lunch break, I said, I'm going to do this. I went home, bought a camera online. I quit my job. And I came home, and my husband said, well, you did what? I said, give me 6 months. I can do this. I think I can teach myself and make a business. And he said, all right. And I did have to get a part-time job, but within the year, I was able to quit my jobs and do it full time. I just worked my tail off.
That's incredibly fast. Wow.
It was very fast. I had a couple photos go viral one day, and it just skyrocketed out of nowhere, and I just got clients like crazy. It just worked out perfect. Yeah, so it was a crazy ride. Yes. Very interesting story.
You've obviously got a lot of tenacity and a lot of determination in you. Not many people would do that, to quit their job and with that determination say, give me 6 months, I'm pretty sure I can figure this out. You obviously an incredibly capable person, and that just shows how well you've done and how quickly you've done. And so talk to me about those 6 months. How did you train yourself, from 0 to 60 in 6 months? How did you actually get to grips with the camera? How did you learn? Because that's an incredibly fast pace to learn to the standard that you're currently now photographing.
Thank you. Yes. So Oh my gosh, tons of practice. First, my first teaching tool was YouTube. You can find almost anything on YouTube. So I was doing the basics of the camera, ins and outs. I read my manual upside down, left and right.
Love it.
And all I did was practice on my dogs 24/7. My dogs, I probably have about 10,000 photos of them somewhere on my hard drive. But they're the best, things to practice on because they're constantly moving in and out of sunlight. And I just went out and photographed anything and everything. Eventually, YouTube was not enough, and I wanted to get to a certain level. I started photographing people for free. I didn't charge anything just because I was like, I'm not good. I'm not going to charge money.
Wow.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I photographed anyone, everyone I could find. And I just started doing workshops online, just night and day. I was just like eating up photography because I was like, if I want to make this a career, main reason I really wanted to do it is because I wanted to start a family one day. I wanted free time, and I knew that if I could be my own boss at my own hours, that would give me the life that I was wanting. So I was so hungry for that. I didn't want it to take 5 years, 10 years. I want it to be now. So lots of practice, lots of online tools, and just if I had a question at 2 a.m., I would think of it, I would Google it. Just lots of work. It definitely didn't fall into my lap. It was just, you got to put the time in. That's the only way you can get better.
I love it. You remind me of when I learned to drive a car, because most people have loads of lessons over many, many months. I had a limited budget, and I decided I wanted to learn to drive in this short space of time with my limited budget. So I went to my driving instructor, and I just said to him, this is because I booked my test. Normally your driving instructor goes and books your test. No, I went and booked my test before I'd even started my lessons. And then I went to my driving instructor, said, this is the date that my test is. Shall we work towards it? And he was like, oh, okay. And so I had 20 driving lessons, and that was it. I passed because I just decided. I decided this is what I'm going to do. This is my deadline. And I also had in my mind, it doesn't matter if I fail first time. As long as I really give it my best shot, then I've already succeeded, and it will just set me up for the next time. I was so surprised to win. To win. It sounds like I want to
you want it.
I want my freedom. I love that about you, that you just thought, no, I got my plan, and I can see this working in my lifestyle and for the lifestyle that I want for the future. And I don't want to faff around, not knowing for sure if this is definitely going to work. I need to know, is this it? Is this the thing that I'm going to be able to live and work and love at and build the life that I want? And so you just went all in for it. That is so cool.
I just saw it, and what you were saying actually reminded me. One of my friends, one of my old college roommates, she was getting married, and she said, hey, I like your photography. I'm getting married. I want to hire you for my wedding. And so I was like, I've never shot a wedding. I don't know what I'm doing. And so that was kind of the same thing. I was like, okay, I've got 9 months, and I've got to learn everything I can. And, I charged accordingly. I didn't, charge what I do now, but I decided, okay, I'm not going to do it for free because I'm not a total beginner anymore. I am good at portraits, but I know weddings are a whole different ballgame. So it was the same thing. I set that deadline. I was like, I've got to learn Flash. I've got to learn this. I just gave myself a list of things to learn, and I just made myself learn it. And looking back on it now, I don't recommend that to anyone, really. I recommend second shooting.
Because that was going to be exactly my next question. I was going to say, to people who would hope to follow in your footsteps, and rocket into their business like you did, what advice would you give them about what did you do that you felt was actually a very good use of time and meant that you progressed incredibly quickly? And what, looking back, you're like, actually, that wasn't as essential as I thought it was at the time, and I probably could have either minimized it or cut it out completely.
Right. So I thought that I needed a logo, a website, almost like this brand. And really what I needed to focus on first was education, which I did focus on a lot. But I felt like before anything else, you've got to learn the inside and outside of that camera, because then you can focus on your relationships with people and posing them and just getting the flow and the rhythm. Because if you're still trying to figure out your camera, you're like, oh, hold on, the settings, I can't figure it out. And then it's just awkward between you and the client. So definitely learn your camera first. If you're interested in weddings, definitely second shooting. 100 times over. I didn't do that. And while everything worked out great, looking back on it, I realized a lot of it was luck that, I didn't mess up someone's wedding. But I can't tell you. Yes. And I still second shoot nowadays, not because I need to, but because I really like seeing the perspective of how other people work.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, we work for each other when we need second shooters, because not that we need the experience, but it's just nice seeing weddings through someone else's eyes. And I think even nowadays, even if you're 20 years into your career, you can always benefit from learning from others. So I really think if you just reach out to someone, say, hey, and just be honest. I've had people say to me, I have not done weddings yet, but I would really love to learn. And I always tell them, look, let's meet up. Let's do like a mentoring session for free, because sometimes I can train them to photograph in a way that I like, and I'll use them a lot more. So I may not use a wedding to teach somebody, but if they reach out for mentorship opportunities, whether it's paid or free, that's really what I would say focus on first. Even styled shoots, set up your own styled shoot. It helps you practice getting those detail shots, because in a wedding versus at home, things just run so much differently. So just reach out to people. There's someone who will help you. It may not happen at first. You may have to contact 100 people, but someone will say yes.
That is, that's really good advice. I've heard photographers say, I've tried a few photographers to help me. You do just have to find it's the right person at the right time, who just happens to have the time or is looking for a second shooter, and you're in the right place at the right time. So that's really good advice. Now tell me about these pictures that went viral, because you said that actually that ricocheted your business. And so what was the situation around that? How did you end up with these pictures going viral?
So it was very random. I don't just do wedding photography. I love maternity and, families and stuff. So I photographed this gorgeous woman who had this idea to do a milk bath photo. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen them, but I had never done them at the time. And I said, okay, I'm not promising anything. We'll try it. If it doesn't work very well, I'll still do an outdoor session with you. Yeah. So I got all the flowers, the milk and everything. And I posted it on Instagram and Facebook, just like a sneak peek preview. I'm like, I really like this photo. The next day I woke up to like 1,000 notifications. I was like, Facebook broke. What is happening? Oh my God. And apparently someone at BuzzFeed saw it and posted it, and then Pop Sugar, and then all these people were posting it and asking me for more photos, and I was just blown away. I thought it was a gorgeous image, but I never expected that to be the photograph that just made everything move forward. So after that, I probably got 2,000 followers on Instagram overnight, and everyone was contacting me for maternity photos, and then some of them wanted wedding photos. So that really, really, it really helped out my career that first year. So I know that's not typically what happens for most people, but I am just blown away, but that's what happened. Yeah.
But it just goes to show that you never know what's going to trigger the launch of your business. You've got to just keep doing what you love, keep experimenting with client requests, going, never done that before, let's give it a try.
Let's do it.
And keep posting the pictures that you love, and who knows actually where...
you don't know what you're gonna like or don't like until you do it. So I've recently discovered newborn photography is not my thing. I love the babies, but I send it out to other photographers. You just kind of have to find what you're good at and what you're not good at, and just realize you can't do everything. And that made me realize I love maternity, so I still offer that. Even though weddings are what I focus on, I do milk bath photos all the time, still because of that photo from 5 years ago.
I was going to say, you sick to death of milk bath photos. Everyone's like, I want a milk bath photo. I want like that one picture.
Yeah, for a little while it was getting old, but I still like doing. They're always pretty.
What is it that you don't like about or you don't prefer as much about baby photography?
It's just like I said, I have a baby myself, and I did her own photos, and I props to newborn photographers, because it can take an hour, it could take 5 hours. And you're getting peed on and pooped on, and I'm just hot and sweaty because you got to keep the room warm. And it's just, I was, I'm always scared. I don't want to drop I'm not going to drop the baby, but you know what I mean? I'm very nervous and I just feel anxious the whole time. So I just realized, what, this isn't for me. I'd much rather be laughing and goofing off with a couple out in a field somewhere than sweating in a studio. So I have so much respect for newborn photographers.
Because I'm the same. I'm not as keen on newborn photography.
Yes.
I used to have these shoots that looked so serene and so peaceful. And what people didn't know was that was the photo taken in between crying.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
From crying.
That was my baby. I was in her photos, and 2 hours later, I was like, "Just go to sleep, please, baby, please."
Oh, no. What do you love about maternity photos then? That's obviously the one that's, the weddings maybe is the bulk of your income, but maternity pictures are the ones that really creatively give you room to explore and roam.
I just think women are just these amazing, powerful people, and capturing them in just a state of, I know sometimes, at least I felt like a house when I was pregnant, but when I took maternity photos, I just felt beautiful and like empowered, and I just love bringing that out on women, and they just, I don't know, they just have this glow about them, and it's just so much fun seeing how excited they are for their new little one. So it's just a whole different kind of happiness that I like to photograph.
I love it. And so now when you had your own baby, because your daughter's 6 months old now, so you mentioned to me that you had to adapt a lot of the way that you were working, because you mentioned before at 2:00 in the morning you were Googling questions about how to do your cameras, and you were working incredibly hard because you were selling very fast, and suddenly things needed to change because you were starting a family. And so talk us through that transition and how you were aware, okay, I need to make changes, and what changes was it that you made? Did you make?
Yeah. So, you're right. I was up at all hours. I've always been kind of a night owl. With a baby, you got to sleep when you can. So you can be, if they're sleeping, God, just go to bed, But when I found out I was pregnant, while I had a lot of systems in place, I wasn't utilizing them as much as I should. So, and what I mean that is, I was getting burnt out, and I didn't even realize it at first. But when I became pregnant, I had to become very aware of my health, because I actually had thyroid cancer a few years before I was pregnant, and I was not taking care of myself like I should. That push to work harder and be better and better, you start sacrificing not just your eating habits, exercising, you don't sleep. I'm like, oh my God, it's been like 3 days since I've washed my hair, maybe. Just being real, it's just, I realize I'm not taking care of myself, and now I've got someone else I've got to stay healthy for. So I really had to take a hard look at how I was doing things. And living in West Texas, I drive a lot for my weddings, so I'm driving 3-4 hours one way for one wedding. So I was like, okay, what I got to change things. I don't want to spend all my waking hours on work, because I really want to be there for my baby and my husband. So I started looking at what I spend a lot of time on, and that's emails, sending out contracts. I feel like it's a lot of back and forth with clients. So what about this? What about that? And so I feel like the first step is to find out what you can automate, templates, guides. So really what got my workflow going, I would say the first thing is email templates.
Love it.
Some people don't like them because they say they're not personalized, but I'm like, no, you can absolutely personalize them.
Absolutely.
Of course, I'm not going to say, hello, person contacting me. I'm going to tell you their name, their wedding details, anything to talk about. But almost everybody asks the exact same question. So it's a email template. As I click on it, you can save them in Gmail or whatever system you use, and it says, hi, person, thank you for contacting me. It's a whole list of frequently asked questions they ask me. I include a pricing guide, so whether it's maternity, weddings, anything else, it's basically all the things they're going to ask me up front. Instead of me emailing you back and forth 10 times, everything's included in that first email. And people really appreciate that, because they're like, okay, they can make a decision right then and there. Do I want to hire this person? Not, oh, I have this question, that question. So that saves you a lot of time.
I
I'm
love
also,
that. I'm a big fan of
yeah,
email templates. I'm exactly the same. I've got about 20 email
yes,
templates saved on my phone, and exactly like
mm-hmm,
you said, I just think most people are asking the same questions, and even if
yes,
they're not, it comes across as very professional, and I think increases a lot of trust for them that you're just being thorough and you're
yes,
reiterating to them everything that they already knew. It just makes them go, oh, okay, I definitely got it right. That's definitely what she's offering. Like you said, I just personalize the opening paragraph and adapt a few bits in the middle if I need to, but it
exactly.
saves so much
Mm-hmm.
time. It means I can get
It
back to people
does.
quicker, which I think makes a huge difference. It means I can just email on my phone when I'm just out and just
Yes.
email them back. So no, I'm a huge fan of email
Mm-hmm.
templates.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes. And like you said, I just personalized that first paragraph, like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
your venue looks amazing. I love your invitation ideas, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. But again, pricing guides, the same thing. I travel a lot for weddings, so I have different pricing guides on if it's going to be out of state
Yeah.
or local or a few hours away. So I have a bazillion different pricing guides based
Mhm.
on those aspects too. And then I'm sure a lot of photographers do it, but some still don't, surprisingly. A client management system.
Ah,
I feel like
brilliant.
if you're going to get anything, that's the first thing to get is client. I use
Amazing.
Tave, I think it's Tave. Um, but I love it because it automates everything. It sends
Mhm.
invoice reminders or questionnaires. I mean, just does everything for me once you set it up. So I just click in once a month to make sure, yep, it's sent all those emails, make sure it's good to go. I don't have to touch a thing,
Mhm.
once they book that package, it's all automated once I set it up. So I feel like
Yeah.
that has been my biggest time saver.
Okay. How much time do you think
Yeah.
that saved you on average?
Oh gosh. If I had to say now, even when I'm working full time, I probably only am working in my computer 20 hours a week,
Love it.
maybe less,
Brilliant.
sometimes 10. And even when it's during busy wedding season, it's still not that much more because I feel
Amazing.
like you just have to get really efficient because like I said, I started this job and this journey and this lifestyle because I wanted free time for me and my family.
Yes.
And if you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I hear people saying they're editing, you know, 3 a.m. and it's taking them weeks to edit a wedding. There's a disconnect somewhere and they have to
Yeah.
figure out where it is because it shouldn't be taking that long.
Yeah.
So it's just all these little things add up to a lot of time.
I think you're right because it's one of my big pet topics because I think, like you said, a lot of photographers start building their photography business because they want to have free time. They
Hmm.
want to be their own boss. They want to be in control of their own timetable. And yet, in reality, years down the line, they're still working endless hours late into the night, saying no to all their friends, not being able to do their
Yes.
hobbies, and actually, if they were honest with themselves, they are a bit miserable. This isn't the life that they thought they were building. They were building for
Oh
themselves.
yeah.
So you've illustrated that the important thing is to keep focused on your goals outside your business. Why are you running your business? You're not running a business so that you can be
Exactly.
tied to your business. Your business is there to serve your life. And so what is it you want that business to look like? And then once you've got that ideal, you've just got to filter everything out and hone everything down and automate everything until you're into those times, in those time slots that you want every day. And that's such good advice.
Yes, yes, because I like you said, this is not the life most people aren't wanting to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I mean,
No.
I was there. I know how it feels. I was burnt out and
Wow.
you just got to figure out what you can outsource or delegate and what you
Yeah.
enjoy doing. So some people say, but I like editing and all these things and I do too to a certain degree. But if I have 5 weddings in 2 weeks, I don't have time to get all those weddings and portrait sessions out. So,
Yeah.
I really think that you can teach people how you edit. So what I do is during those busy times, I will outsource. I edit like my favorite photos so they know
Okay.
how to edit them in my style. And then I'll go through and tweak them a little bit, but just those color corrections and, my presets that I put on there, somebody else can do that. You don't have to be the
Okay.
person that applies the preset. straightens the photo,
Yeah.
crops it in. Somebody else can do that. So I really feel like, just that alone also saves me probably 10, 20 hours just
That's
on
amazing.
editing.
Now, so who do you use for your to outsource your editing? Because it's something that my husband did try in the past, and it was so hard trying to find someone who would edit it how we wanted it edited. And I think we chose a company, and then we finally found someone who was doing it right, and then they left, and then we ended up with someone else, and then it all just went to crap again. Do you know, it was actually really stressful. So you've obviously found one that really works for you.
So I use a private editor. She actually is on maternity leave, so I'm not using her at the moment, but I will sometimes use photographers edit. I will say when the first time I used them, I didn't like it, but I also realized I wasn't giving them enough examples and what I need to do. And you really have to work with them, and once they kind of hone into what you want, that's with any editor, you develop a relationship, and they're like, okay, we know exactly their style, we get this. You got to give them lots of samples and examples, and a lot of times it's still not perfect, which is fine. I will go in, and like I said, I'm very meticulous, so it was hard giving up my editing, but it just makes such a difference. I'll just go through and be like, okay, I want this a little bit more this straight this way or something, but I can just fly through those photos real quick. Because I become obsessive about editing. I'll spend like 10 minutes on one photo, and I'm like, no, it's just not quite right. And then you've got 600 more photos to go, and you're like, okay, Michelle, you got to get it together. So I realized for me, that's kind of a pain point in my business. So I realized I had to get rid of that part. Otherwise, it was going to just eat up all my time if I spent too much on editing.
Sounds like it stopped you from being too precious, which is an affliction that a lot of photographers have. Like you said, spending hours tweaking the little sliders, a little bit more red, a little bit more orange. And
yes, exactly.
and most of the time, tweaking things that the client is not going to notice. They're going to be just as happy with that picture.
They have no idea.
The greens are slightly more yellow or slightly more mint.
Yes. They have no idea. I mean, some do, but most are like, they look the same. Like my husband, I'll ask him an opinion. He's like, this is the same photo. I'm like, no, you have no idea. It's completely different.
I love it. So that was you mentioned that was a slightly painful process as a creative person to let go of the perfectionist side, I suppose, of just wanting the pictures to be absolutely, right, and to actually just release it to an outsourcing editor and just go, yes, that's good enough. Like, that's a good representation of my work. Little tweak here, little tweak there. That's good. My client's going to be happy.
Yeah, it was hard, but what really convinced me to keep doing it, they'll get it back to me within 3 days.
Wow.
So with me, I was taking weeks to do it. Wow. And if they get it back to me in 3 days, that still gives me plenty of time. If I really wanted to, I could go play around with some of my favorite photos, which I do. But if it's only like $100, $150, it's so worth it. It's just so worth it, saving that 20 hours of work.
I love it. It just sounds like you, because I'm really geeky when it comes to automating my business and trying. I feel like it's all automated to within an inch of its life. Everything just works very, very quickly, and I hold myself to high standards. Like, I remember one day I did some of my other admin tasks, and then I got to exporting my album, which was going to take 2 hours, and I thought, like, I could have been exporting the album while I was doing all these other things, and now I can't do anything. And so, I often start at the beginning of the day. I list out all my tasks, and then I think, right, which of these tasks can I do alongside each other? Which one can I do first and then afterwards? And actually, that's going to make the best use of my time. And actually, when you stop and consciously think about your day rather than just stumbling onto your laptop and just doing the first thing that comes to your mind, it is surprising how much time you can actually save just by planning ahead of time what you're going to do. It sounds like you're quite similar to me in that respect.
Yes, and especially having a baby who you have to work with nap times now, because I was so oblivious. When I was pregnant, I'm like, oh, she'll sleep all the time, I'll work, No, you get like, okay, she's down, I have 30 minutes. What can I do in 30 minutes? So it's like I have to plan exactly, that morning, I'll say, what's going to take me the most time? What's most important? I'll list out exactly, okay, I can do this while this uploads and this. So
brilliant.
The more efficient, and then you're like, okay, I have the rest of the day free, because my goal is to always be done around 4 or 5 o'clock. That's when my husband gets home, and I just we just go to the park, we go fishing, go for a walk. I don't want to be thinking about, I didn't answer this email or this, and I feel like you have to give yourself space to just breathe, because
So good.
people who work too much, this was me, I turn off all notifications on my phone, as in social media. So those little numbers that pop up on the app, I don't let those do that.
No.
Even my email, I don't check my email on my phone, except for my website is set up. If I have a wedding inquiry come in, it'll text me. So that way I can choose to respond right away. Otherwise, every other email, I don't even know it's there until I get on my computer and check it, because I've set those morning hours to be, okay, this is email, concentrate on that.
Yeah.
And if you don't give yourself space to breathe, your whole business will suffer.
That is so good.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned it very briefly, and I know it's got to be a little bit flexible when you've got a child, but you mentioned the mornings are your email time. So do you kind of roughly portion out your time through the day or through the week, where there are portions of the week or the day that are for that particular task, and it just helps keep everything regulated, and so you're not thinking too much about it? Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So I always do emails first thing, because a lot of my brides will email me in the middle of the night questions and things. I don't know if that's just my clients, but a lot of them do that. So I want to get to that first.
Yeah.
And I do sometimes try to check it in the afternoons if I have time, but first thing in the morning is what I always do. And if I have something, because I do edit sometimes, like if it's a slow season, like right now, I'll just have 1 or 2 portrait sessions a week. I'll edit those real quick. But so while that's uploading, I may be culling another session. So it's like you said, and I'm like, okay, her first nap's an hour and a half, so I can do the bulk of my work then. Then in the afternoon, I have 30 minutes. So what's least important in case she wakes up early, So I work in order of importance of what has to get done that day.
That is so good. And so roughly what kind of things do you deem as important, and which kind of things do you deem as less important? It doesn't matter if they get put off, for people listening who maybe aren't so good at prioritizing their tasks.
Yes. So it's hard. I'm still human, but I try to stay away from social media at all costs. Some people are like, well, I got to check my DMs and my messages. I'm like, no, just don't even go there, because you're going to be commenting on your grandma's photo of her cat. Just don't get on there at all. So I find emails are important, but I go through each email and I will star it if it has to be answered immediately. Because because you can get really sucked into your inbox really quick, because if they respond right away, then you respond, and then next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. So you just go through it, answer the most important. If I have a deadline coming up, like, okay, I know her maternity session needs to be edited within the next 2 days, I'll do that first. So I just look through and find what has to get done for my clients. I always base their happiness on the order of importance, meaning if something like working on my website, for example, that doesn't have to have a deadline. That's what I work on my spare time. So you find things that you don't have to work on versus what you do. So I like to tinker with design and my website, but I know that's not that important. So that's just for my free time in the evenings if I just feel like working. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
Which is really good, because I know a lot of photographers will spend hours tweaking their website when they've got client emails going unanswered. So that is such good advice.
Whatever's going to make the client happy is what I focus on first.
Yes. I love that. Clients first, everything else comes second. That's really good. So now you had a big challenge, because you ended up with your daughter being born in the peak of your wedding season. So you were having to reorganize weddings, and so talk us through that, because that is quite a challenge for any photographer, and one that is quite often experienced. So what was that like? Suddenly realizing you were going to be having a baby in the middle of wedding season.
Yes. So it was funny, because we were kind of trying, kind of not. And then I thought, well, maybe I will just put this idea of family on the back burner for now. Because if I were to get pregnant now, that falls right in October, and that's my peak wedding season. And then as soon as I thought that, I found out I was pregnant 2 days later. So I said, okay. And I had 6 weddings that it was going to affect. It was either right on my due date, or a week before, a week after. So there's a few ways you can kind of go about it. I gave most of my couples an option. I could send an associate photographer, and I would edit all the photos, or they can. I try to avoid this, but we can cancel altogether. Refund everything, because it's not your fault that I'm canceling on you. But most of them, they like your style and they want you as a person, but if you just explain to them that as an associate photographer, you only work with, other professional wedding photographers, you're not going to send some random person off the street, send them examples of their work, you'll edit the photos. Most clients are going to be understanding. And I think it kind of goes back to when you have someone hire you, you want to find really nice clients. All my clients are super nice people, and they're so understanding, and most people are, most people are happy for you. So you just kind of have to decide, do I want to cancel all the weddings, give them their money back, help them find a new photographer, or hire an associate? So those are the two main options, and most people are completely understanding, and it was about half an hour.
I've got colleagues who were petrified of telling people that they were pregnant. I think they were really worried that people would be angry, that they'd let them down, that they'd been irresponsible or whatever. And I was just saying, look, who's going to be angry that you just you found yourself pregnant? That's just part of life. And actually, like you said, all of their clients were very understanding, and it's actually unreasonable if somebody isn't understanding in that scenario, especially when you're offering to help them to find alternative solutions. So why did you choose to try and keep the work and do the editing yourself, as opposed to just completely freeing up your time and getting rid of the wedding? And in hindsight, with a baby still involved with organizing the wedding and doing the editing, is it something you would do again, or something that you wouldn't?
So I actually chose to only keep 2 weddings, and I did this very strategically because they were my highest highest paid clients, and I knew I could still send the photos off to be edited. I didn't have to do that work. It'd still be in my style, but I knew those weddings I wouldn't have to do too much work on the back end with a newborn, so it was still worth it, and it would still be profitable. The other ones, I chose to go ahead and cancel and find them a new photographer, help them, hire someone else, because I knew as a first-time mom, I didn't know what to expect. I knew there's probably lots of sleepless nights. I wasn't going to want to deal with all these clients and editing and all these things. So I chose to keep 2, and I canceled the rest. So it's up to you and how you want to run your business. Personally, I'm very glad that I canceled the majority of them. Looking back, I probably may have just canceled all of them because, oh man, it was a lot of sleepless nights.
Was it?
But I did tell them that they may get their photos slightly later than I usually deliver. And they were like, "That's totally fine. You've got a newborn. We understand." So the biggest thing is just communication with your clients. Expectations. Don't leave them guessing like, I wonder if my photos will be here next week or 3 months. Like, you got to communicate as much as you can beforehand, so there's no unmet expectations from either one of you.
Yeah, so good. Now, you mentioned before that all of your clients were lovely, or are lovely, and that is something that is become a bit of a character of your business, that you just seem to attract lovely people, and you just have a very nice time. You never get bridezillas, and so talk us through what you think it is about the way that you've approached your business, your marketing, branding, your client contacts, managing expectations, like you said, that's actually helped you to just connect with this absolute ideal client.
Yeah, so I feel like it all starts with the branding of your business, and I feel like you've done a really good job with this. When I look at your website,
thank you.
Yeah, it's just you want to bring out joy in people, and that's what if that's what you want in a client, you have to show what you want. So if you show couples laughing and having fun, and sometimes twirling around, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, they look happy. I want to be happy in my photos too." So. You just have to think about what would my ideal client want to be doing in their photos, and show those in their photos. So once those people contact you, it's all about how they communicate with you too. I find that I'm pretty good at reading people. If they contact you and say, "Hey," they send a whole paragraph, "I love your photos. Here's a picture of my dog. He's going to be in my wedding too," and you can tell they're just so excited to work with you. Or versus the person who says, "Hey, what are your prices?" Bye. You can tell they're not going to value you as much as maybe that other person. So as much as I wanted in the beginning to just work as much as I could, even I would say after the first year, even then I still got picky because I knew I was like, I don't know. I would still email them, give them my prices, but they'd be like, if they ask for discounts, if they just don't value
You've got
you,
warning bells already.
It's just, you just follow your gut instinct. Like, I don't leave them hanging saying, nope, not available. I'll say, hey, I'm actually not available for your date maybe, but here's some amazing photographers. If I don't think they're going to be a great person, obviously I don't want to pass them off to somebody else, but if they're looking for maybe a little more moodier photographer, after communicating with them, they're not sure what they want. You have to ask the right questions, see what their needs are, what they want, say, what is your vision for your day? And for my client, it's, I just want to have fun with my husband or my wife. We just want to make memories, see our friends. They're more focused, I'd say, on the marriage than the wedding. And I find that's who I kind of hone in. And those are the people who aren't going to completely freak out if it's a wrong shade of white lily, So those are the people I try to steer my business and myself towards. And they're always going to be happy with anything you give them at the end of the day.
I love that. That is exactly the same for my business. We do sound like we're very similar. I remember for the first few years of my business, I very deliberately had a photo on the opening page of my website of a bride laughing with her hair blowing across her face, because I thought I want to attract brides who don't mind if the hair blows across their face during the day, and they're not going to ask me to Photoshop it out.
Yes, exactly.
Show their teeth in their photo, when they smile or something. And exactly like you said, I found very, very quickly, I don't know that I've ever had a bridezilla. In fact, I had one in the beginning of my business, and it's because she was asking for a discount, and she kept asking and in the end I said yes, and she was a nightmare. And so I learned my lesson. No, just exactly like you said, stick to my gut instincts. I put a little thing on my website, on my email, that says, what do you like about SJ's images? And that just helps me gauge, are you just looking for someone to do the job, or are you actually really excited by what I do and how I do it? And so, I got an email, what do you like about SJ's images? And she'd put, everything, with loads of exclamation marks. Well, I'm going to be available for that wedding. I will be there.
Yes.
Somebody who leaves it blank and then just puts, are you free? And I'm like, no, don't think I am.
Exactly. Exactly. It's people who, I had a wonderful lady does hire me for her wedding. She wrote at least 4 paragraphs about, I love this photo because of this, and wow, this idea. She's just so excited, and you can just tell who's happy through. Some people aren't good at communicating through email. I get that. So I still prefer to hop on a video chat or phone call with them. And even then, you can just tell by people's energy, okay, maybe this person isn't for me, but I do know a person she'll probably work well with. Last year, I had a great bride. She was actually a really great person, but I just knew her vision, she was telling me, was just not going to match up with the way I photographed. She wanted, bright blue skies, everything super bold and graphic. And she was a designer, and it sounded great, but I knew my style was just not going to match what she wanted. And I just don't want to change the way I do my photography. So I was like, but I've got someone amazing for you. And because I was honest with her, she said, I ended up hiring that photographer you recommended, but she has sent me so many of her friends that do want a bright and airy, light photographer. And so because of her, even though I didn't book with her, I booked 3 of her bridesmaids for their weddings. Yes. So it's just, even if they're not your client, you just have to treat people with how you want to be treated, and take care of people. Just take care of people, and the universe will take care of you. I
love that. That is so good. And so you've kind of briefly touched on something that I'm very strict about, which is saying no to some people. And I think it's something that a lot of photographers talk about, only saying yes to your ideal client. But in reality, a lot of photographers don't have the guts to say no to a photographer to a client they don't think is their ideal client. But that sounds like something you're actually quite hot on, even at the start of your business. So talk us through mentally, how do you have the strength to say no to somebody you don't think is right for you in your business when you need the money, when you're starting out in business and there's that pressure? How do you have that strictness with yourself?
Yes. So I will say I am pretty strict with my money too. And I feel like a lot of us creatives maybe aren't great with numbers. And I'm not either. But I knew early on that if I wanted to make this, I have to remember this is a business. And while I do enjoy it as a creative outlet, I always remind myself this isn't a hobby.
Yes.
And this is my business. This is my livelihood. And while I do have a husband who does make money, he's in the military. We're not millionaires, so it's not like I can just rely on him. So I'm half the provider. So I've realized in the first year of business, I was taking any and every job just because I was just itching to get my hands with experience, which I think is a good idea. That first year, you don't even know what you like and dislike yet, so you do, just take, whatever you feel like taking, take that job. You'll quickly realize, okay, maybe that wasn't worth it, but,
yeah, that's so true.
But,
no, it's absolutely fine.
Water.
Yeah, so sometimes you just have to test things because you don't know what clients are going to be like. You don't often know who your ideal client is exactly until you've photographed quite a few, and then you're like, definitely that kind of person.
Yes, yeah. So once you've got your feet wet and you're like, okay, I really, I really feel like it comes down to your finances too, because like you said, people are taking jobs because they are scared. Like, I've got to put food on the table. What made me feel safe was I had the savings account to fall back on. I had these things in plan in my personal life that, made me feel safe. Like, okay, if for some reason I don't book any business for 6 months, I'll be okay. I can pay all my bills.
So good.
But, obviously I would panic if I went 6 months without work. I would take an ideal job, but I have that safety net, and I feel like it's important as a business owner. You've got to be good with your finances, because if you are scared to not take jobs, then either one, you're not charging enough, or there's something like another disconnect somewhere in your business where, if you're scared to not take one job, then maybe something's got to change on the back end.
Yeah, really good.
Finances and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's what made me feel a little safer about being a little pickier.
Yeah, I love that. It means that you can operate from a position of strength because you're not desperate for the money. And I think one, it's not good for your health if you're just living hand to mouth and just desperately, needing the next client to bring in the money so that you can survive. And I also think the clients can spot it a mile off if you've essentially just got dollar signs in your eyes going, yep, here's my next meal, or whatever. And actually it helps you take the pressure of the money off and just look at, is this the right person for me to work with? Am I the right person for them? And so that you can really create those good matches. And like you said, if you say no to the wrong clients, it just gives you more time to figure out how to find and connect with more of your right clients, which is ultimately going to make you happier. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah. And speaking of the finances, another thing that will save you time, if you personally, like I said, I'm not good with numbers, but with counting, if you hire an accountant, that will change your life, because a lot of my friends have been audited and things, and I'm terrified of that. So I record my expenses as soon as they come in weekly. You just got to stay on top. It's like I said, it's all these little things you have to stay on top of that will just serve you better in the bigger picture.
I love it.
So really, finances are going to be a big thing I think people need to concentrate on more, which will open opportunities for you.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if they have it in the USA, but I use a company called QuickBooks, which is an online one. I only started using them less than a year ago, I think. And up till then, I was doing it meticulously by hand, writing out everything into a ledger and calculating everything myself, and then double checking my calculations to make sure that I'd definitely done it right. And it would take me, the good part of a solid day, at least once a month to get it done. And it was laborious and it was miserable.
Yes, QuickBooks. QuickBooks is fabulous.
So easy, and it literally takes me 10 minutes, and I just go, that was an expense, no, that was personal, that was an expense, and then it adds it all up for me, and then my goodness, and I'm not recording all my receipts like I was, because they're all on my emails. If it's a physical receipt, I take a photo and put it into Dropbox. So I do have all my receipts. So if I get audited, then I will put all the receipts together then. But actually, I've been running my business for over 10 years, and I was collecting receipts all this time, meticulously, like changing the dates on them all, and putting them in the right folders. And I've never been audited, so it was a complete waste of time. So actually, I wanted to save that time and then just put it in right when I'm audited. Okay, collect all the receipts. I know where they all are. I'll just collect.
Yes. Yep. And like you said, just scan. There's apps that will just scan in receipts. You just take a little photo, goes right
Brilliant.
to QuickBooks. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just all these little things can really just make such a difference. They really help.
I love it. I love it. So now, Michelle, you do offer one-to-one mentoring for people, don't you? And then just
Yes,
sounds
I
like there's so
do.
much to learn from you. So let us know a bit about what do the mentoring sessions look like with you? What can people hope to learn from you?
Yeah, so I can do them two ways. What I first do is I ask people, what do you want to learn? What do you want to focus on? Is it business? Is it photography? A little bit of both. And then we kind of develop, I guess you could say, a curriculum from there. I love to do I call it like a mini styled shoot because we
Okay.
can not only I'll get headshots of you. We'll get beautiful images of whether it's a couple, maternity, whatever it is you want to practice
Mhm.
with. We'll get flowers, all kinds of gorgeous stuff. And then if you want to learn a little bit about editing, we can go back to a coffee shop and then we'll edit some of those images
Oh,
together.
wow. Brilliant.
And if you want to do an extended session, we can go over business items. But if you, let's say, you're across the country, across the world, I do Skype one-on-one. So obviously we can't do a South shoot, but we can kind of like how we're talking now.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to talk about, I'm an open book. I feel like a lot of people helped me with my business,
Yeah.
and whatever you want to ask me, I don't
I
have
love it.
these crazy hidden secrets. Everything can be learned online, but I feel like I just help you condense everything to an hour or two, and just
Yes.
whatever you want to talk about is what I'll help you with.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're a very clear thinker. You're able to just look at your time scale and think, right, okay, this is what's important, that's not what's important. You're able to analyze what's going to get you the clients in that you want. And so that sounds like that is going to be so beneficial for the people who come to you for
Yeah,
mentoring. It
thank
sounds like there's a
you.
lot that they can learn from you. So where can people go if they would like to connect with you and find out more about your mentoring?
Yes, you can go to my website, nevamichelle.com, or just hit me up on Instagram. It's the same thing, Neva_Michelle. Those are the two places I'm always hanging out on. So you can email me, direct message me. I'll get back in touch with you ASAP. But yeah, I love Instagram. That's
I
probably where you
love
should
it.
find me.
Ah, amazing. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for your time. Your story is so
Thank
interesting, and
you.
you obviously have got a lot to offer to other photographers, and so we're so grateful to have you in the Love Light community, and so grateful for who you are. Thank you for
I
coming and
appreciate it.
sharing.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been an absolute joy.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more interviews, tips and inspiration in the Love Light Fine Art community on Facebook. You can also follow along with each new episode on the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram. And don't forget to visit www.sarahjaneethan.co.uk/lovelight for information on training, real-life wedding workshops and online courses to develop your own fine art photography and connect with more of the clients you love.